My paper was on the role of Christian dissidents in New England and its effect on the American Revolution. To understand Christian dissidents in New England, we must go back to England itself. Following the Elizabethan settlement, there were many who felt that the new Church of England was still far too Catholic. Considering the separation of church and state did not exist yet, the fact that these Puritans challenged the church also meant that they challenged the crown. Facing political and religious scrutiny, many Puritans left England to worship elsewhere. The most famous of these groups of Puritans in America are the Pilgrims. After leaving Holland for the New World, the Pilgrims established the first Puritan settlement in America, Plymouth. A large part of Puritan society was based on the concept of the covenant. This idea held that as long as God's people earnestly worked for Him, in turn, God would bless them. As time moved on, thousands of dissenting Puritans moved to the Massachusetts colony to live in what they perceived as a more godly society than England. It is from the Puritan Massachusetts that the rest of the New England colonies are formed as a result of Christian dissident. Roger Williams was a Puritan who lived in Massachusetts. He disagreed, however, with how the Puritan society functioned. He believed that that Puritanism did not separate from the Church of England enough. His biggest issue was the lack of separation of church and state in the Massachusetts colony. He further criticized the colony for taking the land away from the Native Americans without due compensation. Williams' political and religious beliefs soon put him at odds with the Massachusetts government. He was arrested for breaking his oath of allegiance to the colony and banished. Williams was sheltered by sympathetic Native Americans during the harsh winter and soon established the settlement of Providence. After starting the first Baptist church in America, Williams then left the church. His legacy would continue, though, as Providence became the seat of power for the colony of Rhode Island. Thus, another colony was established due to dissenting beliefs. While Massachusetts officials were dealing with Williams, they soon realized they had another issue. Anne Hutchinson was a member of John Cotton's church and began holding a small group study in her home. Hutchinson, following the teachings of Cotton, believed that grace was free and that there was nothing Christians could do to earn it. This idea clearly went against the Puritan belief of the covenant relationship. After being accused of false teachings, Hutchinson revealed that God had spoken to her directly. This was enough for the Massachusetts Puritans to banish her. Hutchinson left for New York, where she was later killed in a Native American attack. Preceding her banishment, her brother-in-law, John Wheelwright, who was another follower of Cotton, was banished for holding on to the same beliefs. With a part of his congregation, Wheelwright left and established Exeter, which would become the colonial capital of New Hampshire. Again, another colony was established by Christian dissenters. Prior to Wheelwright and Hutchinson, but after Williams, another dissenter left Massachusetts. This one, though, of his own free will. Thomas Hooker was a Puritan minister who came to Massachusetts, and once there, he too found the Puritan government troublesome. Believing that a person's internal covenant with God should not affect their ability to vote, Hooker did not feel comfortable in Massachusetts, leading a large number of his congregation north. Hooker established the settlement of Hartford, which would later join with other settlements to form the colony of Connecticut. From these Christian dissenters came the 4 New England colonies and a tradition of dissent. Perhaps it was the disdain for a hierarchical system seen in the Catholic and later Anglican Church that drove the people of New England to revolution nearly 150 years later. Even Edmund Burke in 1775 ascribed the colony's love of liberty as the result of their religious foundings. It should be abundantly clear that in New England, dissidence was a part of life. If one could not get what they wanted in one place, they could go and create it in another. This very principle of dissident was fundamental in the search for liberty. After all, what was the revolution except a passionate display of political dissension? This dissension has been a part of the American experience since the very beginning.